it's super, super delicious, super easy. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I put some avocado oil into my pan. We want to use a neutral oil because eggplant tends to burn pretty quickly when you're sauteing it or frying it. So we want to use something neutral. So like safflower oil, avocado oil, canola oil, things like that, so that they won't burn, so that it won't burn so quickly. Because actually my first round that I made, I did use olive oil because I had to run out and get more avocado oil, and definitely burnt pretty quickly. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to make sure that we're going to chop up our eggplants pretty consistent size, but we want to make sure that they chop up really nicely. And cube. We want to cube them, right? We want to make sure that they're nice. Cube them and add a little bit of more oil in there. The eggplant tends to really absorb a lot of the oil, so we want to make sure there's enough in there that we get that nice brown color. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to let that roast. Obviously, I'm not going to let it. We're going to let that saute. I'm not going to let it saute until it's all brown because that takes a few minutes to do. Not too long, but it definitely takes some time. And then we are going to make our sauce before we do that. But before we do make our sauce, I like to chop up my tofu, and I like to just put it in the oven for a few minutes. I like to put it in the oven for about 7 to 10 minutes. It doesn't need to, cook and get brown all the way, but I like to firm it up a little bit. I find when you just put it right into like a wok or a frying pan, it breaks up, it gets mushy. So I like to firm it up a bit. I think it holds a lot better, especially when we're trying to keep that like consistent shape going, right? That cubed shape of the eggplant and the tofu. So I put mine in the oven for a few minutes, but they got a little bit brown on the outside and they just definitely firmed up a bit. So the next thing, before we can do that as we're making our sauce, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of garlic. So I already have pre-chopped garlic. I would add about 3 garlic cloves. And we want to cook that just until it's fragrant, right? We don't want it to burn. Garlic obviously burns very quickly as well. So we just want to kind of get that smell, that aroma, of cooked garlic. And then right when we kind of feel that, you can start making our sauce. So we have the garlic in there. It smells really great already. Now we're going to use some soy sauce. So I like to use a lower sodium soy sauce for this, but I didn't have enough to make 2 batches of it. So I'm using a higher sodium soy sauce. That's fine. Keep in mind that this does evaporate pretty quickly. So we want to get the sauce going pretty quickly before it evaporates, and then it really starts to burn our eggplant. So we're going to kind of put that together, mix it around in the soy sauce a bit. Then we have some honey. You can use brown sugar. I happen to think honey makes it a little bit of a smoother sauce. So we use about 2 tablespoons of honey. You can use a little bit more if you are using a higher sodium soy sauce, because we do want something to cut that saltiness a bit. But so here I use like 2.5 tablespoons of honey. Don't really need more than that. It thickens up the sauce right away. If you do want a little bit of a thicker sauce, you can also add some cornstarch, but there's really no need for that. It already looks and smells so delicious. The last thing I'm going to do to our sauce, you can add some salt and pepper, but it really should not need it. But the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add some ground ginger. You can use fresh ginger if you have. I actually don't love to cook with fresh ginger. I find it actually has a little bit too strong of a taste for me. I don't love the ginger taste in general, but I do like a little bit of it, and I think it goes really nicely with this eggplant dish. So I put a little bit of ground ginger in there. It gives it a little bit more of a mild ginger flavor. It's not as intense and strong. So this is cooking really nicely. It looks really good. Kind of let all those flavors get together. We're going to take I'll show you what it looks like quickly. You can see it looks really nice. So now the sauce, everything's kind of cooking. The sauce is boiling. That's what we want. We want it to bring it to a boil. Now we're going to put our tofu in there, and we want to mix it all up. And you'll see that because we hardened our tofu a bit, and we firmed it up a bit, it keeps a really nice shape and it's much easier to work with, I find. Of course, this is totally a preference. I just like the look of it. I think it looks really nice to like not be broken up and not be mushy, and it just ends up looking a lot prettier. So this looks so delicious already. I am going to show it to you, and then I'll show you how I plated it over some rice. So we have here, it looks so delicious. It smells amazing. And then this is our plated version. I sprinkled it with some sesame seeds on top. You can, put a little bit more soy sauce if you want on top. You can put some sriracha or some, some sort of spicy sauce. You can put jalapeno if you want a little bit of spice. So there's a lot of things that you can do to this. It's really delicious, yummy, and super, super easy.